A U.S. Navy destroyer moves through the narrowest stretch of the strait, steady and controlled, escorting a civilian oil tanker through one of the most watched waterways on Earth. The tanker follows close behind, massive, slow, impossible to hide. Nothing about this transit is secret, that's the point. Along the coastline, Iranian radar sites are active. Fast attack craft sit fueled and ready. Missile crews are already at their stations. Every movement is deliberate. Every position chosen in advance. In the open afternoon sun, nothing is concealed and nothing is misunderstood. From Iran's perspective, the picture looks clean. One destroyer, one tanker. Limited maneuver space. A narrow choke point with land on one side and shallow water on the other. No room to turn. No obvious escape route. To Tehran, it looks like control. What Iran believes is simple. This is an isolated target passing through a space they think they dominate. A moment where pressure can be applied, where a message can be sent, where escalation can be forced on their terms. The destroyer keeps its course, no change in speed. No warning shots, no speeches over the radio. And that's the misread. Because Iran believes they've built a perfect trap. What they don't realize yet is that this passage is being watched from far beyond the horizon. And what they think is a single engagement is about to become something much larger. The Strait of Hormuz is narrow by design and unforgiving by geography. At its tightest, there is little room to maneuver. Deep water lanes are fixed. Traffic is predictable, and every vessel passing through is visible for miles. This is why it matters. Not because it invites conflict, but because it removes uncertainty. For decades, Iran has treated this stretch of water as leverage. Control the shoreline, threaten the passage, and you shape the conversation far beyond the Gulf. The assumption is simple. A choke point creates power. Force ships to slow. Force choices, force reactions. On this afternoon, that logic feels validated. The destroyer's route is known. The tanker's speed is limited. Land-based systems sit elevated and prepared. Surface craft can move quickly in packs. From shore, it looks orderly, almost rehearsed. But on the bridge of the destroyer, the same facts read differently. Narrow waters mean fewer unknowns. Fixed lanes mean predictable angles. Daylight means confirmation. Every radar contact is clean. Every movement is logged. Nothing blends into the background. In a place like this, ambiguity disappears early. The escort mission continues without deviation. Communications are brief, systems are active but quiet. No alarms, no dramatics, just readiness. The ship's posture isn't aggressive, but it isn't casual either. It has the posture of a crew that understands where it is and why it is here. This is not a standoff yet. No weapons are raised. No warnings exchanged. But positions are being taken, and everyone involved knows it. On shore, Iranian planners see proximity as advantage. At sea, the destroyer sees proximity as clarity. And in a space this tight, clarity changes everything. Because once every piece is visible, the question is no longer who is watching, it's who is already prepared. Just after midday, the posture shifts. Onboard sensors register a change along the coastline, not movement, but intent. Iranian radar systems switch from passive observation to active tracking. The destroyer's signature is being measured now, not merely watched. Angles are calculated. Distances refined. This is no longer monitoring. It's targeting. Out on the water, small surface contacts begin to separate from the shoreline. Fast, low profiles. Civilian traffic doesn't move like that. They form loose groups, adjusting speed, testing spacing. From the bridge, the pattern is obvious. From shore, it probably looks routine. The tanker continues forward, steady and exposed. The destroyer holds position ahead of it, maintaining distance, maintaining coverage. There's no sudden maneuvering, no warning broadcasts. Nothing that escalates the situation on its own. Inside the Combat Information Center, the picture sharpens. Contacts are classified. Tracks are labeled. Timelines are projected. The crew doesn't speak in hypotheticals. They speak in ranges and response windows, then comes the confirmation. Multiple radar emissions converge. Not one system, but several. Different locations. Different angles. Coordinated. This is the moment when intent crosses a line not through action, but through alignment. The order is quiet and procedural. Weapon systems move from standby to ready. Defensive layers come online. No one raises their voice, no one rushes. Every step follows a checklist written long before this day. What makes this moment dangerous isn't speed, it's patience. Iranian forces aren't rushing in. They're positioning. They're waiting for alignment, waiting for the geometry of the strait to do the work for them. From shore, it likely feels controlled, measured, even restrained. From the destroyer, it reads as something else entirely. Because when multiple systems lock on at once, there's only one reason. And once that threshold is crossed, there is no going back to observation. 2:52 p.m. The time stamp matters because this is the moment everything changes. On the bridge of USS Mason, warning indicators begin to stack, not one alert, but several, arriving almost simultaneously. Multiple inbound tracks appear on the tactical display. Their speed, altitude, and approach angles remove any remaining doubt. These are not probes. They are committed trajectories. There is no pause for discussion. Defensive systems activate in sequence, exactly as designed. Sensors prioritize targets. Interceptors are cued. Countermeasures deploy automatically, not emotionally. The crew has trained for this scenario in simulators and classrooms, but training never includes the weight of real daylight, real distances, real consequences. From the outside, the scene is unmistakable. White contrails streak across a blue sky. Movement is visible from miles away. There's no fog, no darkness, no confusion about what is happening or where it is happening. The destroyer maintains course. Commands are short, confirmations are immediate. The ship's systems begin working through the threat set, calculating intercepts faster than any human could track. Some inbound paths disappear from the screen. Others persist longer, forcing adjustments, forcing prioritization. The engagement is controlled, but it is not clean. The destroyer absorbs impact and keeps moving. Damage is assessed in real time, not dramatized. Fire suppression activates. Redundancy systems compensate. The ship remains operational, still between the tanker and the threat. This is the moment Iran expected collapse. Instead, what they see clearly in open daylight is continuity. The destroyer does not retreat. It does not drift. It does not break formation. Even under pressure, the escort mission holds. And that is the signal. Because once the ship survives the opening strike and stays in the fight, the encounter stops being about forcing a decision. It becomes about consequence. At 2:52 p.m., Iran believed they were initiating control. What they actually initiated was response layered, automatic, and already in motion long before the first track appeared on radar. Iran's plan rests on one core assumption: isolation. From the shoreline, the destroyer looks alone. One hull, one escort. A narrow corridor with nowhere obvious to run. The calculus is straightforward: overwhelm the ship quickly, force damage early, and control the narrative before outside forces can intervene. But that assumption is already outdated. What Iran cannot see from the coast is depth. Not just distance, but layers. Beyond the visible horizon, air assets are already repositioning. Launch crews are moving before alarms are sounded. Decision authority doesn't need to be requested. It has already been granted. This isn't escalation. It's contingency execution. Below the surface, the environment is even quieter. No signals. No movement that breaks the water. Just persistent presence tracking without being tracked. The kind of positioning that doesn't announce itself until it matters. This is where the misread becomes fatal. Iran believes speed would create advantage. That compressing the timeline would limit response. But compressing the timeline only works when the other side is unprepared. Here, preparation is the entire structure. Every defensive action taken by the destroyer feeds information outward. Sensors don't just protect the ship, they inform the wider network. Each contact refined, each trajectory confirmed, each intent validated. The picture expands outward in seconds. What Iran thought was a local engagement is now shared awareness. And the response doesn't come with anger or urgency. It comes with precision. Assets already airborne are retasked. Others begin moving without fanfare. The process is mechanical, not emotional. From Iran's perspective, the opening phase should have forced retreat or chaos. Instead, it has triggered alignment. Because the moment the destroyer holds position after impact, the question is no longer whether the ship can survive. The question becomes how much of Iran's forward posture is about to be exposed and how quickly it can be removed. This is the point where the trap stops belonging to the side that built it.
From the moment the first defensive response stabilizes the situation, the timeline compresses fast. What happens next does not look dramatic from the outside. There is no sudden rush of ships into view, no mass movement on the surface. Instead, the balance shifts quietly, almost invisibly, as control of the environment changes hands. Airspace above the strait becomes structured, not crowded structured. Assets already in motion are reassigned. Sensors widen their focus. Threats are no longer treated individually, but as a connected system that can be dismantled piece by piece. On the water, remaining hostile movements lose coordination. Formations spread. Speed changes. The confidence visible earlier gives way to hesitation or panic, but uncertainty. The geometry that was supposed to trap the destroyer now works against those who built it. This phase isn't about retaliation. It's about removal. Each response is deliberate. Threats are neutralized in order of capability, not proximity. Command control links degrade first. Mobility comes next. What remains is presence without influence. From the destroyer, the mission never changes. Stay between the tanker and danger. Maintain passage, hold position. Even as the wider response unfolds, the ship's role remains exactly what it was at the start. That consistency matters, because it sends a clear message not through words, but through behavior. The objective was never to dominate the moment. It was to keep the strait open. As minutes pass, the picture becomes unmistakable. What Iran believed would be resolved in their favor within moments stretches into something they can no longer shape. Their window closes as the response expands beyond anything visible from shore. By the time T-47 Myanmar approaches, the outcome is no longer in question. Not because of force alone, but because the initiative has fully shifted. What began as an attempt to control a single passage has turned into a lesson about scale, preparation, and reach, and all of it is unfolding in broad daylight, with nothing left to interpret. When the pressure finally recedes, it doesn't do so dramatically. There is no sudden silence, no visible signal that marks the end. Instead, the environment settles into something calmer but sharper. The destroyer remains on course. Damage control teams finish their work methodically. Systems are redundancies confirmed. The ship is still moving, still screening the tanker, still performing the same mission it was assigned before anything happened. That continuity is important. In daylight, outcomes are harder to reinterpret. Smoke clears quickly. Positions are visible. The water tells its own story. What remains operational and what does not is obvious to anyone watching from shore, from the air, or from orbit. The tanker resumes its steady transit through the strait, unchanged in speed, unchanged in direction. There is no diversion. No emergency reversal. The passage continues exactly as planned. Communications begin to flow outward, not statements, but data. Confirmations replace speculation. Timelines replace claims. The difference between what was intended and what occurred becomes increasingly difficult to blur. From Iran's side, options narrow. Escalation is no longer a lever, it's a liability. What was meant to demonstrate control has instead exposed limits, and exposure is permanent in daylight. The engagement ends not with pursuit, but with stabilization. That distinction matters, because the absence of spectacle reinforces the outcome. The response was not about sending a message through excess. It was about restoring the environment to a state where the original mission could continue uninterrupted. And it does. By the time the ships exit the strait, there is no ambiguity left to manage, only records to review and lessons to absorb. What happened is already fixed in sequence, visibility, and consequence. Nothing hidden, nothing exaggerated, just a completed passage through one of the most contested waters on Earth.